In 13 years of sailing, this is the most dangerous place we have ever anchored. Hawaii, Antarctica, Japan, Grenada, Uruguay, Croatia, Bora Bora, the list goes on. If you were on your dream sailboat, what would be top of your bucket list destination? We asked you and we were surprised by some of the answers.
But before we get into all of that, first of all, here is the most exciting place we've ever been. And I think it was at the very top of Jamie's bucket list, wasn't it?
It's been at the top of my bucket list since I was a little kid. Good morning. That was pretty shitty. Not handling wise, the boat was fine. Got some sailing in, motor sailed, motored and so on, but the amount of lightning storms was really quite fill your pants time. I mean, the lightning was just ridiculous. It was so bright that it lit up everything, and we had some very near misses, so I don't really like doing that. Keeps you on your toes. Managed to get a couple of hours sleep because I didn't want to leave Liz on her own during her watch, because that was the time when we went through that really big squall right in the middle of it. Anyway, here we are on the other side. I've just taken over watch. The sun has yet to come up actually officially, but there's just enough wind to get that code 0 out again, which is just as well because it got very wet and needs a bit of a dry, and it's just brought our speed down to about 3.5 knots thereabouts, which is fine because we've got plenty of time to get to our next waypoint. Just measured this on the radar. It's a big bastard. From tip to tip, from about the centre of the screen there all the way around to there, it's almost 10 miles. It's 10 miles in length. So I've got two assistants now. I've got this little furry thing. Perched herself up against my foot to stop herself from rolling, and Liz has finally got up. So all this commentary I've been doing, I've been on my Todd. Liz has been catching up on some sleep. She's now up, and she can help me get that head sail away if and when we need to. Look at that track there. That's where we tried to avoid a squall. That was last night when we thought the squall was going that way, so we went that way, and we went that way, and the squall went that way. So we ended up turning around and just going through the middle of it. Last night, and one more fish. I've got the gaff. Right. Where is he?
At least get a photo of him.
It's a Dorado. We haven't seen a Dorado around here for a while.
We haven't seen a Dorado for 9 years.
Right, let me gaff him to get this on film quickly before his colour goes, because the colour doesn't last. It lasts a minute. Anyway, that's my hand, and I think I better go and break his neck.
Put the line out. No, we had about 2 hours before night. I thought, oh, I'll just give it one last go with the Rapala because we're going very, very slowly. That's the Rapala. And was lying back asleep, and Jamie said, I think your line's caught round the prop. I thought it was too, and as we pulled it up, obviously there was all of this. Looked like it had been going round and round and round in circles. So very, very carefully and slowly pulled it up, and it came, and then I thought, oh, there's a plastic bag on it, bright green and yellow plastic bag, and Jamie said, no, it's a Dorado. And the last Dorado we caught was 2010 off the coast of Oman. So we haven't seen many Dorado around here, have we?
No.
No, we've seen them on menus. That's the first one I've seen for a very long time.
What do you think, Millie?
Need to hold it up?
Yep. There we go, it gives you an idea of the size. It's Millie sized. It's actually about the same length as Millie. Well, that was a nice finish to the day, wasn't it? Little Dorado. Looks quite juvenile actually, he's quite slim. Dorado I've caught in the past, many years ago, were much bigger. Also known as dolphin fish and mahi-mahi as well. But anyway, just the right size for Liz, Millie and me. Look forward to that. And we're going to be eating it, hopefully, at the base of Krakatoa. I've kept this quiet, but this is our next anchorage. Well, there she is, Krakatoa, or as the locals call her, Krakatau, looming out of that morning light there. Now this is actually, this is the original Krakatau, or Krakatau, I'll call her Krakatau from now on. On the right there, that's the original Krakatau. And there's a possible anchorage there, which we may go and check out. But the famous explosion in 1883 whose effects were felt all over the world. When she exploded, she disappeared half in the sea and made way to child of Krakatau, and that's the one that is now active. So what you see here is the original Krakatau. You can see the outside edge. I'm pointing the camera to the middle. So one of the anchorages is actually inside that crater, but the active volcano is a new one, relatively speaking, and that's just somewhere in the middle there, much smaller than the original Krakatau, but equally as devastating, of course. And one of the things we have to be careful of is the fact that the seabed may have changed. There was an earthquake, an underwater earthquake that happened only a few months ago. And I've been trying to find chart corrections and changes to the chart datum, but couldn't find anything online. The official Indonesian website that deals with these chart corrections was down. So we're going to have to be very careful, just in case new obstructions or depths have changed, new obstructions appeared. So we will treat her with the respect that she deserves. So on our port side, this is the Long Island. It's called Sertung Island, and Sertung and the island behind Anna Krakatau being the child of, made up the original Krakatoa archipelago, would you call it, a volcano I suppose. So this is probably the perimeter, one part of that crater. And as we swing round, I mentioned earlier, we have the original Krakatau, which apparently lost 2/3 of its height in the 1883 eruption. Anna Krakatau in the centre there, and I can actually see smoke. And you can even make out the crater. It's very high on one side, but the crater comes down almost to sea level, this side of it. So I've just put the zoom on. It's going to be a little bit wobbly obviously because I've zoomed right in. And here you can see the crater of Anna Krakatau. Now this bears absolutely no resemblance to any photo or picture we've seen of this. Even our friend Brendan, who came through here 6 months ago, sent us some photos of the smoke billowing out of the top of the crater, and the profile has completely changed, and that's due to the underwater landslide that this created a few months ago.
Oh! Look at those ones! I'm seeing chunks here, Benny?
Yep.
Oh my God, look at it! On the right!
Look at the rock! Listen to this one.
Bit of a contrast here, being surrounded by this awesome scenery. Do you know how I normally hate that word awesome, but it truly is awesome. But look at the state of the water. Absolutely disgusting, just full of plastic. Such a shame. Just coming into our proposed anchorage now, and look, we've got dolphins. Give it a second. There they are. It's nice of them to greet us, isn't it? Sorry, I'm half concentrating on this and half concentrating on our depth. Oh, they're coming over, are they? Come on, dolphins. Come and say hello. Saw them last night jumping clean out of the water, perpendicular to Esper, lit up by the moon at night. So yeah, we've just we've been in over 200 meters between Krakatau and Old Krakatau, and we are aiming for that white patch there. And we have to anchor close in because of course this is very deep and it comes up very shallow very quickly. Still in 135 meters depth. Leslie's pops the snubber on. Nice view of her bum there. I have to say this is possibly the most ridiculous place I have ever anchored. Hey, look how close we are to the shore there. If the chain were to stretch the full 60 metres, we'd probably hit the shore. B, recent landslide. So recent that there are still green trees there. That's happened very recently. C, we're inside the biggest notorious volcano in the history of mankind. And D, her sun is just over there, steaming away. Quite bizarre. As I turn the mic round, you should be able to hear behind me the sound of those cicadas and crickets and insects. And boy, is it hot. There's no wind, but I guess we shouldn't be complaining about there being no wind, because if the wind were to pick up, that's what we'd blow onto. Anyway, we're in 20 meters, we've put 60 down, and that's all we want to put down in case of emergency, in case of more landslides, and for whatever reason we want to get that chain up quickly. And with our recent issues with the chain wrapping around rocks, we don't know what we've just anchored on.
We're in Krakatoa. Loads, lots of stuff going through my mind. It's probably the most dangerous anchorage I think that we've ever been to, for lots of different reasons. It's very exciting. Adrenaline was going as we came in. So when we first mooted the idea of going all the way around Sumatra and then back up to Borneo that way, I was going through passage planning and I said to you, oh, we go through the Sunda Strait, that means we can stay at Krakatau. And your eyes lit up, we got really excited by it, and I did as well. The whole adrenaline was going. And we've got a friend of ours stayed here, I don't know, about 8 months ago in his boat, and he sent us a photograph of an Krakatau, child of Krakatau, with the smoke coming out, and that was 2018, and it was very active at that stage. We got very excited about being able to do the same thing. But of course, between then and now, Krakatau had a massive landslide which caused enormous tsunami, and a lot of people were killed in this area, and the whole bathymetry, the underwater topography, has changed. So I was very trepidatious about coming through, because I was wondering exactly how much it had changed and how easily we were going to be able to navigate through it. So I was full of worry, as usual, and you were full of excitement and adrenaline, and you just wanted to go straight at that Krakatau. And as usual, I was the handbrake. No, let's just get the hook down safely, and then we can go over there by dinghy. So anyway, all of that, there's loads of other stuff going on, but it's really exciting being here to see it. The other thing for me is that the first time I ever heard of Krakatau is when I saw a film called Krakatau, East of Java, at the cinema with my mum when I was a kid. Of course, it's not east of Java at all, it's west of Java. And she loved it, and she loved volcanoes, so it's really making me think of my lovely mum, Dottie. So here's to you, Dot.
I've done a completely irresponsible thing, and I've decided to come out and see the child of Krakatoa herself. There she is. The water around here is really orange. I'm entirely sure what that's all about, but I'm not sure if I can actually land the dinghy. That was my idea. I thought perhaps I could land the dinghy, but the whole of this side, the west side, is being pounded by the swell that comes through from the Indian Ocean. So I don't think there's really anywhere that I can land the dinghy. I wanted to fly the drone over it, of course, but not here anyway. I might go round the corner and see if there's somewhere that I can find, but it's an incredible landscape, a lunar-like landscape, but there's no growth on it at all. It's just bare lava, pumice, absolutely bare. But it's quite awe-inspiring. And in front of me, as I look east, is the original Krakatoa, and it's not until you come this close to child of Krakatoa that you realise how impressive the fascia is of that original volcano. And Espa's anchored right in the corner. She's a tiny, tiny little dot. I don't know. It's a pretty deep shelf. You can see the shore comes down like this, and then there's a big trench. As you look down towards west, you can see big breaking waves coming in, and I don't know, just a little bit too nervous about this. So I think I'm going to head back. Liz has just radioed through to say our depth has dropped down to 11 metres, which is a bit shallow, especially because where we anchored it was 25, 20, and then like this. So I'm going to head back, which is a good excuse for me to not try and land the dinghy there. There was a big enough break on that shore there that I think I could get into trouble. Interesting stuff going right up close to this. It's just it's a thing of beauty in a very raw, rugged kind of way, because it's there's this, I guess it's like a baby, it's a new mountain. It's what mountains would look like before they have growth and foliage and trees and what have you on them. You know, this is brand new, and yeah, for me it's not to be messed with. A little bit nervous. I'm just going to head back, have another beer, maybe have a sleep on this. Perhaps tomorrow I might wake up and think, ah, you idiot, you should have gone ashore. So maybe tomorrow we'll have another look, but for the time being, this is as close enough as I want to get to it. Well, after that exhausting trip over to Krakatau, we thought we'd barbecue up the Dorado. There it is. 6 very healthy looking steaks cooking away. just as the sun goes down.
Jamie, has Krakatau met your bucket list expectations so far?
It certainly has. I mean, it's an incredible place. Now, we saw from Peter's footage the eruption which happened a few months ago, and I'm kind of a bit gutted we didn't see it in that state, but at the same time there's a real sense of eeriness about the place, you know, after that eruption. So in a way it was quite unique to be able to see that, because there's no one there, there's no vegetation on Krakatau. It's just incredible. And don't forget, of course, this is just part one, because in next week's episode we push it a little bit further.
So that's Jamie's bucket list #1 spot ticked off. What about you? Some of the answers we had were really inspirational, amusing, and very interesting, and very strange. Apparently you want to go all over the world.
No surprises there, but there's one in particular that kept recurring.
Yes, it did.
And we're going to call that our #1 spot.
Yes, and we'll come on to that in a minute, but first of all, let's start in the Mediterranean.
Danny Basso on Patreon says, what a question. I would start with the Mediterranean Sea.
And Graham and Alison Pickering on Patreon ask a question: does buying a boat in the Med and sailing her home to New Zealand count as a destination?
Yeah, okay, we'll give you that.
Rigging Doctor simply says the Mediterranean.
And then we have a comment on our YouTube community page, and I think this pretty much sums up why you should go sailing in the Med. And it's from Lucian TM, who says Mediterranean, Greece, Croatia, Italy, France, Spain, etc. For the excellent food and wine.
Yes, tick.
Cannot go wrong with Mediterranean food and wine. The most beautiful ports and towns in the world. That's very true as well.
Yes, it is stunning. It's a beautiful place. Why are we here?
The history, we got a great flavour of that in Turkey.
We did.
And sailing with no schedule, forgetting what day it is, just following the winds. Well, of course you can do that anywhere, but certainly in the Eastern Med they have really good winds throughout the whole of the summer for sailing.
Next up, the Atlantic. Jose Antonio Fernandez says Providencia Island. It belongs to Colombia, but it's closer to Nicaragua because it has the most spectacular coral reefs, pristine waters, shark diving, very friendly people, and last but not least, with Emma, his one true love.
Bosco Bob on Patreon wants to go back to Grenada. He said it was a tough call answering this question, but he'd want to go to Grenada and then sail the nearby islands and stock up his boat with enough nutmeg jam, nutmeg syrup, and cases of rum to tide me over for a couple of months, and then circumnavigate the globe.
Yeah. And then we had one from Michael Dean Ballard. He chooses the South Atlantic, and he specifically chooses Uruguay, a destination that had never occurred to us. Had it?
Nope. I checked on Google Earth. It seems to have it's got a great coastline. So right, we're putting that one down on our list. And YouTube viewer the Gorignac wanted to go to Marigalante, which I had never heard of, and it's just south of Guadeloupe. Next up we have the Pacific, and Daniel O'Connor over on Patreon says planning on the Pacific Circle, but the highlight will be taking my wife to Hawaii. Kerbal Facile says Bora Bora, and more generally all of the Pacific. I have to admit, I was not familiar with Bora Bora, and I zoomed in, and it's a fascinating looking place. It's like sort of an atoll with a big sort of town in the middle. Yeah, very interesting. Right in the middle of the Pacific.
Yeah, great. Christopher Björk Peterson says Tonga, and Cactus Sailing says the Galapagos.
Of course, who wouldn't want to go to the Galapagos? Over on Patreon, Carl Holbert says a little island called Fuagea, Fuagea. It's on the Tuvalu Atoll. If anyone knows how to pronounce that, please tell me. And he says, back a few years ago when my desk job was really getting me down, I just searched Google Earth for the most remote place I could find that looked like a place I would want to sit for a while away from all my cares. Fuagea was it. Now when I get stressed, I think of kicking back on the beach, and someday I'd really love to actually get there. Next up, we have Australia, and Hans Christian Golvik chooses the Great Barrier Reef. And Where's Waldo says Rolly Shoals and the Kimberleys. Hope to be on our way there this time next year. I really hope so. Shane Villis also says, for my missus, the Kimberleys. For me, I have none. I have to say the Kimberleys is something that we were very unfamiliar with until quite recently. One of our friends who comes from Broome in Oz kept going on about the Kimberleys, and since we've heard about it, we've heard just nothing but good things. Very remote.
Really remote, spectacular, untouched, incredible nature and wildlife. So yes, that would be on my destination list, but we can't go there because of Millie. But before we move on to your top destination, we're going to switch now to Asia.
Ta-da!
Here we are. Mark and Jean on Quest for Thunder from Patreon. They say, well, as strange as it may seem based upon your initial destination, Japan fills our spot.
Absolutely, I'm so looking forward. We're so looking forward to
Yes,
going to
we
Japan.
are.
We really
So is
are.
Millie.
I think culturally it's going to be very different.
Yeah.
You know, even from what Southeast Asia is compared to the West, it's going to be the same difference again.
Yeah, it's a very unusual place. In fact, Laurie Sito also says that he would like to go and would like to circumnavigate Japan. That would be quite a trip, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
The next one is Werner, our friend Werner, also known as Dive Yeti from Patreon. Now, he has a really unusual one which we're going to share with everybody. Dangerous grounds off the northwest coast of Borneo. This is where we're going. It's a nearly uncharted body of sea with too many reefs to locate them all. It's practically unexplored underwater, an expedition diving area where you can expect the unexpected. What a great feeling it must be to dive there and to know nobody had ever dived there before. It's not for the faint-hearted. Never heard of it.
No, it sounds fascinating though, and as a diver, that's got to pump your nads, isn't it?
Yes, nice, yes, I guess so. Jay Kim says South Korea. Captain Mike Hawaii and Nizam on YouTube both say Raja Ampat, another diving place. And Joe Raynack chooses the whole of the Banda Sea, Indonesia.
I mean, we're now Indonesian converts,
Yes.
and it's up there, I think, as one of our favourite
It is.
sailing destinations.
And just going back to South Korea, yeah, we want to go there.
South Korea, Taiwan, top of Philippines. These areas apparently are actually very yachty friendly. Although sailing isn't as popular there, they still have a sailing scene,
Yeah.
and they're supposed to be very welcoming to visiting yachts.
Yeah, so if we can, we're going to check them out before we get to Japan. Keep watching.
Moving along west from Asia, we have, of course, the big Indian Ocean.
Big and scary.
And Ben on Patreon says, since you ask, you have shown me what I feel must be paradise. The Andaman Sea would be my dream destination. And Ates Technic says Chagos or Cocos Islands, of course.
Yes.
And Darren G says the Maldives.
Yeah, we went to the Maldives, we loved it. It's a diver and snorkeler's dream. Well, it was when we went there, although we have heard they've had quite a lot of bleaching since then. Some of you want to go to some cold places. Wow, brave of you. Mike Hayes says circumnavigate the Americas, including stops at the likes of South Georgia Island and the Aleutians. I have ice on the brain, what can I say? Yeah, well, the Aleutians, we should be going there as well. Yeah, nice one, Mike. Keith Tarnowski, the Northwest Passage across the top of the world. Whoa. Oh, I'd love to do that. I think you need a steel boat.
I think you need a big steel boat for that. And John T. Bray says Patagonia and the Horn.
Wow. Yeah. And now, your top destination. What a surprise. Were you surprised?
Well, actually, I think with hindsight, no, not really. I you know, we've spoken to, and we know people have been to this destination, and I get it.
Yeah, I get it too. What is it then?
It is Antarctica.
Yeah, so this is what people say. Play before work. Antarctica. Pete Gasson again, the Ross Archipelago. And our friend Sav from Patreon. I've always wanted to follow in Mawson's footsteps, so Cape Denizen, the Commonwealth Bay, Antarctica for me. Wow. Nice one, Sav.
And I seem to remember reading someone wanting some bragging rights.
Yes.
And that was Irrelevant on our YouTube community page. He says, Antarctica, I'm not even joking. I bought a cruising trimaran several years ago for this sole purpose. I've been drawn there for almost 2 decades, no idea why. But there is an island on the peninsula called Deception Island that is the caldera of a submerged volcano and the water is a little warmer. I would like the bragging rights of saying I went swimming in Antarctica.
Oh, rather you than me. I don't know whether I could do that. You would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think I'd give it a go. Anyway, thank you so much for all of your top destinations, your bucket cruising list. And actually, we've learnt quite a bit.
Yeah, we have.
There's a few places we have
lot.
never heard of. And it's been great fun going through Google Earth and discovering these places. So thank you for that. If you're watching and you've got your own bucket list cruising destinations that weren't mentioned in this video, then please pop them in the comments down below. We'd love to read them. And more importantly, why you would like to go
Yes,
there.
not all of them, just your top one.
One.
Yeah, just one. And yeah, and maybe we'll learn more.
Thank you so much for your support. Please do consider becoming a patron or a rum funder. Go and check out patreon.com/followtheboat. And in the meantime, peace and fair winds.